everybody, it's Annette from the Art of Intuition, and today we are going to talk about why relationships terminate and what happens when we get to that process of ascension and some of the ways we try to stall that process a little bit because we're not ready to terminate. We're not ready to abort the relationships. So there is a part when we get to getting ready to go into physical body ascension, and we're in that part of ascension where we're starting to really raise the vibration of our body, that we're not just holding the consciousness, our body's vibration is always going up, but there does kind of get to these tipping points where we start to notice all the relationships are starting to fade. Some people will call it going through kind of like the eye of the needle, and we've talked a little bit about the eye of the needle when we talk about money, and we can't take the money with us because how we got the money is corrupt, and it was tainted because it was all corrupted and tainted in third dimensional consciousness, so we can't take it with us. Plus, if we take it with us, we don't really understand, we don't appreciate it, we don't know what we're supposed to do with it, because money in higher dimensional realities and money in human realities, it's different. How we view it, we don't really appreciate it, we think it gives us value when it doesn't. It's a different mentality, different beliefs we have to have around money. And that's why we can't take it with us. We go a long time without it. It's years sometimes. Usually it's a minimum of years till we learn to appreciate it and not attach a worth to it. So we kind of have the same thing that starts to happen when we get to that physical body ascension part, when we're starting those processes, we're going through the eye of the needle, where relationships start to peter out too. And you'll notice a lot of your relationships go to what people will call it a termination phase, where all relationships that are not highest aligned must terminate. You know, it almost reads like a computer code. It's kind of what it is. These are disruptions to your program, to the reprogramming you're trying to do. You know, you've cleared out a lot of the human programming. We still have a lot more to do. Don't feel like when we're at this point, the point that we're talking about today, that we don't have a lot to go. We still have a lot more to go to get to body ascension. Which means body ascension means we've returned our body to the original template, right? We've gotten into a certain level of purity and we've held that purity. We still have programming to clear, but it's a lot easier to clear. We kind of understand what we're trying to clear. We can do things more energetically instead of having to go through the physical realities. We have a better understanding of everything and how we're supposed to move through it and how easily we can move through it when we're not holding on to it. But we'll find that when we start passing through that eye of the needle into the higher dimensional realities, and we start kind of passing through what a lot of people call it, it's like a vortex, a portal. But just going through it, we have to clear all this programming to get to the other side. We'll have a lot of trials and tribulations, in a sense, in the middle of going in and coming out the other side. That's why it can take years to get to the other side of it. A lot of these different phases, because we'll be tested to see if we're going to go back. We'll have to clear out things that are not of that vibration. So when we start going through these vortexes and portals, we have a lot of stuff that comes up in the middle. And relationships are a big one, because we get to this point where you start to look at them and they'll terminate in weird ways. Some people just disappear and you won't have to worry about it at all. They'll just fade away. You won't hear from them. There will be no big discussion about anything. They'll just be gone. And those will be the ones you don't really have to worry about. There'll be ones where you'll kind of start to notice the imbalance of power, where you might be doing everything for this person, and when you needed something, they weren't doing everything for you. So there are some relationships we get to on our own where we'll be like, yeah, if this relationship can't grow anymore after what it's been 4 years, 10 years, 15 years, however it's been, why am I going to continue this? You know, why am I going to continue to go through this? This doesn't make any sense. I mean, if we haven't gotten to a certain level now, if this person is still very much entrenched in their human consciousness, even at this point, we're just trying to hold the higher consciousness. Maybe we even can't hold it all the time, but we can hold it longer than someone else can, because that's the part of the process we're at. We're not judging where someone else is at. We're just noticing the different levels of consciousness so we can understand, does this person come with? We want to bring everybody with us through the eye of the needle. You know, we want to bring everyone into these ascended realities with us, and it just doesn't work that way. We have to go sovereign for a long time. And to go sovereign, we have to have no one around to really depend on. If not, we can't reach it within ourselves. So anyone we're kind of dependent on, whether we're dependent on them for funding, whether we're dependent on them for emotional support, whether we're depending on them to tell us what to do. That's a big one. Those people normally go very fast. If we're using people as a crutch, they will terminate. And it'll be weird how some of these things terminate. It'll come out of the blue. There'll be relationships that you thought, oh, it would take us a long time to untether, and they're gone like that. And all of a sudden you're like, wow, I thought that would take longer. Trust me, won't take that long. There's going to be a lot along the way. You're going to see like that. You'll see the ones where you're like, okay, I can see where this is just, there's not saying, even though we can see it, we won't want to grieve over it, because the human does need to grieve over these to get all that hurt out, to get all that sadness out that gets triggered when these things happen, which is another reason why they happen, to raise our body vibration even more, to get all this stuff out, because crying does raise our body's vibration, because it gets all that programming out. It gets all this stuff out of our system. So the more we get out of our system, we really can start to look and go, okay, I'm grieving it, but I understand. I understand why it needs to go. I understand why it's terminating. So we're going to have everything's going to be dropping like flies in a sense. And you'd be looking around and go, where the hell did everybody go? Especially if you were one of the people that was really always around a lot of people, and all of a sudden all the peeps are gone. Then we're going to have another kind of relationship termination, which is, a lot of people will try to do this, especially with twin relationships, and I've done multiple videos on twins, so I don't want to go too much into it here. But, technically everyone's our twin, but I'm going to focus here on the people we have a really strong attachment to, the emotional, the romantic attachments, any type of attachment we have where we're putting this person on a bit of a pedestal, whether it's because we think they're on our wavelength, whether we think they are, going the same road we are, whether we think they are just special. That's what one of the twin things we'll do. We'll label them special, which we put up with a lot of garbage from. Which really, the twin relationship is normally, especially if you're entering into them at a part where you're in a higher consciousness, you're here to bring them into a different level of consciousness, to wake them up, maybe just open their eyes to some of this type of stuff. They're there to help you clear programming. And that's it. That's not a Disney movie, because that's all it is. As soon as you've cleared your programming, all the much programming as they can get to, and they're going as far as they're going to go, the relationship has no purpose. So in a sense now, there's no reason to continue it. I could do no more. When I was in a situation exactly like that, I could do no more. There was no more I could do. And I would look at the person, and I knew, it was one of those things where sometimes we'll get into relationships where what they say and what they do are different. And they're doing one thing, they're saying one thing, and we're like, well, it's like I'm being lied to here. Why are they lying to me? And we will kind of look at a lot of those. And I remember thinking that, why is this person lying to me? Why don't they just tell me the truth? Why don't they just say what's going on? And, it took me very recently just to realize, well, technically they're not lying specifically to me. They're lying to everybody, and they're lying to themselves. And I used to lie too. And this is kind of that karmic retribution to come back and get me back, in a sense, to show me, this kind of closing out that process. You used to lie too. In the minute of when that was going on, I was probably lying in that moment to someone else about something, and we can all sit there and want to judge people. Well, why is someone not being honest? Why is some person not telling me really how they feel or what they really want to do? And we kind of take it personal, like it's all about us. And we don't really want to take off my friend used to say, especially when we have a lot of attachments to people, we kind of see with rose-colored glasses on, She used to say we see through love eyes. We don't see really what they are, because we taint that. We see what they could be. We see the aspect that they could be, the one we want to take with us, not the one we have in front of us. Those are totally different aspects. So we get kind of jaded to it in a sense. And we feel like if we just hold on a little bit longer, maybe this relationship can go with us. Maybe I can squeeze this one through the eye of the needle with me. And we really have to look and be honest with ourselves about, okay, do we want someone who's just trusting? We can't trust. And I know the one that I can go back to very recently, I can't trust the person. Lying all the time. But I had this attachment to it. Like that would be the only person that I'll really connect with, the only person that will really get me. But if we don't get rid of all these terminations, we don't terminate all these relationships, we don't make room for the people who are higher aligned to come in later on. I say later on because it does take time. We have this thought that, humans want it instantly. Our human consciousness wants it right away. I'm going to drop this relationship. I'm going to go get another one. I can tell you, if you drop one and you go look for another one right away, you're going to be right back into the same shit all over again, because we don't give our bodies time to reset. We don't get the realities time to reset. We just start the whole shit all over again because we don't give the timelines time to reset. We don't let our vibration get to a point to bring in anything new. We don't get our chance to call anything new. We don't grieve what we need to grieve. We don't want to feel it. So we want to put a Band-Aid on it and keep going. And that is very much the long way to go. So that is why we get to this point, our universe won't even allow that anymore. It won't even allow us to go back to a lot of those human tropes we used to do. It'll say, no, that's it. All these are terminated. You're going alone. You're hoofing it by yourself, and that's it. When we start looking at these people, especially the ones that we know that I know this can't go any farther, it doesn't mean later on, I always preference that, it doesn't mean later on they might not show back up when they're in a different consciousness, when they're ready for the next step. Now, I did a video about when people pop up. It doesn't mean they're ready to still go with you and huddle up together and create some amazing realities. It just might mean they're ready to be activated a little bit more. We have to look and see in that moment. Look and see where somebody is. But I realized that I was keeping really tied to a reality and to a person that, I can't, why do I want someone around I can't trust? And why am I judging him for that when I know I've done the same thing? I was very untrustworthy. All human consciousnesses are untrustworthy. So it's kind of showing us how we do that, showing us how I was doing that in the moment. But in that moment, I couldn't see it. I couldn't see it till maybe a year or so later, 2 or 3 years later, when I could look back on that and say, wow, I was really trying to hold on to that and trying to bring something in that's not aligned, because they're not honest. We can't have an open, honest discussion. No matter how many times I had tried, that wasn't going to happen. How many times I tried in that particular incidents for me, it wasn't happening. So if I can't have a talk about it, we can't align it, you're not going to be honest, why am I trying to carry this with me? So we are going to get to this termination point, and these are going to be a little bit tougher than some of the ones I talked about earlier, because we have all this expectation about what we want these to be and how we want to take them with us, because we have this other belief that they're the only ones that are going to understand us, the only ones we're going to feel something really strong for, the only ones we're going to connect with. Even though if I had kept trying to hold on, even though I knew, I know actions aren't lining up with words. So the person is not really aligned. They're not trustworthy. They're not someone I can really trust. So if I keep going down this road, I'm going to set up realities that are really going to be bad. I'm going to be shown, yeah, you can't trust this person, and you knew that. Even though I knew that energetically, I kept going down the road. I was going to create realities that were really going to show me that, and were really going to make it where there was no possible way this person I would even entertain this person going with me, right? We don't want to get to that. I was probably about this close to getting to that point when I finally just told my universe, if I can't do this, just take him out immediately. And the next day, he was moving somewhere. It was that quick, because it was that not aligned anymore. For a while it had been aligned. I was clearing programming, and I was assisting this person in waking up. So there was a time when it was. It's just when it makes that shift. And there is a part of this where we see so many terminate. I'm not saying all these relationships are going to terminate in like 2 weeks. It could be a couple years. You just start to notice, oh, that person's gone. Oh, wait. Oh, that one's gone. Okay, that one too. Okay, everyone's gone. Where the hell is everybody? So then we also start to kind of glom on to maybe that one we feel the strongest for. The one we really like no more. I don't want to lose any, we start to see it as a loss, because we have to grieve that loss. And it's really important to let our human consciousness grieve that. Our human does need to grieve these and let them go. But you're going to find you're going to go through a lot of them. And this process, like I said, you'll start to see it maybe over months, maybe over years. I know I noticed it more kind of over a few years where it was like one, then the other, then the other, then the other, whether it was business relationships, romantic relationships, what I would call at the time friends, gone, 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 gone. Termination phase. So if you're in the termination phase, understand that's what it is. If it's not highest aligned, they will be removed. They will go and do their thing. And they're supposed to. They're supposed to go live out whatever they're going to go do. When they're ready, they're ready. And if they're supposed to come back around, they'll come back around. Look at where you're holding on. Look at where you're really looking at people and not wanting to see what they are. It's kind of, what's that the old saying, when someone tells you who they are, believe that. Well, energetically, everyone tells you who they are. It's whether you're going to listen to that or not. You don't even have to wait for the words. You can just look. And plus, actions are huge. Actions speak very loudly energetically. You can be hearing a lot of this. You can look at someone's actions and show where the priorities are and understand. And not make it personal. We used to do the same thing. Anyone who's going to watch this, anyone's going to sit there and say, oh, I've never been dishonest. Oh, I've never lied. Oh, I've never tried to manipulate or use manipulation to get anything. You're rose coloring who you are, in a sense, because we've all done that. Everyone has done that. We've all done it. And this is just kind of getting mirrored back to us. And it's a good chance you're probably, when this is happening to us, we're doing it in that moment. Because I couldn't see it in that moment, but I could see it, like I said, years later when I when I was looking back. And when we start to look back, we're kind of clearing part of our caution in that sense. We're clearing that some more of that programming that person was digging up. We're closing out that reality. Even though the person might be gone years and years ago, we still might be working through some of it energetically and clearing out the program that attracted them to us in the first place. And we start to see, well, I see they did that, but I was kind of doing the same thing in another part of my life. I was doing the same thing somewhere else. I just really didn't want to label myself like that. I didn't want to call myself out, even though I was doing that. And I wasn't doing it maliciously. We have this thing where everyone's going to lie and tell us a lie or not be trustworthy because they're mean, or they hate us, or they're just doing it because they're these terrible people. No, they're doing it because they don't even trust themselves. We didn't either. We do that stuff because we don't love ourselves. We do that stuff because we don't love other people. These are what the human consciousness can't do. That's why we do this stuff. We're not trying to ruin somebody's life. We're not trying to destroy somebody. We're just trying to human survive. That's why we do it. That's it. We don't need to gloss it. We don't need to sit there and paint someone else as the devil because they're doing that. It's not about us. It's not a personal thing toward us. It wasn't a personal thing toward the person we did it to. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I can bring in here. I think that about sums it up. Termination phase is a big one. When you're going through it, if you feel like you can align it, if you feel like it's someone you want to try to bring with you, have that conversation, have an open, honest discussion about what works in the relationship, what's not working, what is higher consciousness, what is highest aligned here, and see if they're willing to go. Normally for me, if it was any relationship I started in a human consciousness whatsoever, even if I was 80% conscious, but still I'd go unconscious 20% of the time. That happens a lot when we're dealing with the twin flame kind of energies. Money kind of energies too. People who we associate with money, or people we associate with, like jobs. And you can kind of see there might be some places where you couldn't hold it all the time. You couldn't be your higher aspect all the time. You could for a little while, but then there'd be certain, especially when they really dug us into our programming, that we would kind of lose it for a while, and then we could come out the other side and we could hold it a little bit longer. So anything I had started with any ounce of human consciousness in there did not hold. It just did. The people weren't going where I was going. They weren't interested in it. And it's not because they are never going to go there. It just wasn't I was just supposed to awaken them up a little bit. It wasn't their time yet. You know, it just wasn't. And when it's their time, they'll be there, and they'll be somewhere, you know, whether it'll be in a reality, creating realities with me, or creating realities somewhere else. They'll still be doing that. But that is the gift we kind of leave for them. We kind of open the door and we keep going. We can't wait around for people to be ready, wait around for people to decide they want the same things we want as far as the realities we want to create, how we want to live. We want to get out of hell dimension human realities and into higher dimensional soul aligned realities. That's where we're going. They're not going that way. We can't pull them. We can't drag them with us. It's just not enough room. It's not enough room. So, okay. Keep practicing the art of intuition.